Most important step, first place to start with anything is figuring out what it is you actually need. There's a lot of stuff on the market, that is going to be 4K and smart tracking and human detecting and all these features that most residential customers don't really need. And when you contact someone in sales, they obviously want you to buy the expensive, fancy one, but we really want to make sure you get your needs met and not just have the coolest, shiniest thing. So we start with figuring out what kind of resolution you need, what kind of coverage you need, do we need audio? Those are some of the places we're going to want to start. Almost always, you're going to get your system put in, you're going to see what you have and go, here's a spot I didn't think of. Here's, coverage that I'm not getting that I wanted, or I wanted better than what I'm actually getting. We really recommend, if you're going to have my house, for instance, I have 4 cameras, but I have an 8-channel recorder because I know there's a possibility that I might need a 5th or a 6th. And so it's just cost-wise and preparing-wise, it's easier to get 8 channels up front for the recorder capability. And then that cost me maybe an extra $50 more than the 4-channel. Whereas if I started with the 4-channel and then decided I needed more, I would have to throw that out, buy a whole new unit. So we always kind of recommend, plan to expand because it's probably going to happen. Best practice is to have a plan before you get started. We see a lot of people who, they halfway through the install and realize their cable is not long enough. They can't, drill through this wall or get to here because there's something in the way. Really have everything planned out and mapped before you start taking things out of the boxes and drilling holes and all that stuff. Something that we see a lot is older buildings are made much differently than newer buildings. So if you have an older home, it might be a lot harder to do that install. You don't necessarily have just drywall. You might have bricks and plaster and not have the in-wall space that, maybe a newer house was already planned for. Newer locations might even already be pre-wired. So you really just kind of got to plug things in. But with an older building, it's definitely not going to be unless someone, did that upgrade along the way. Customers having expectations that don't match up with either their budget or with reality. We've all seen the CSI shows where they enhance. That's not a real thing. It doesn't really work like that. You can't spend $50 and get the same kind of camera that the government uses at the military base. It doesn't work that way. So really having those expectations kind of understood before you start making purchases. When you pick up a device like a Ring or anything else that's available on the consumer market, you're going to be paying a monthly recurring fee for that, whether it's $10, $20, $30 a month, depending on what it is that you have. And you're going to pay that for as long as you have the device, if you want it to work. With a professional security system, you're going to buy your equipment, it's going to get installed, that's it, you're done paying. There's no other fees involved with that. Another great feature, and this is very security minded, is that when you have your professional security system, if you have a BV security system, all your video is recorded onto a disk in your home, whereas your Ring or whatever, your videos are stored on a server somewhere that you don't control. For me, that doesn't feel secure in keeping my family or my business safe. We want to make things as easy for the installers, the users as possible. So we try to have as much information in as many different places as possible. Our YouTube page and our website is going to be the main repositories of all that information. We also do have a dedicated tech support staff here 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, here to answer any questions. But really, most of the people who pick up the phone can probably answer most of your questions as well. We put a lot of work into training the salespeople alongside the tech support people, so that there's a lot of crossover in that knowledge, so that you don't necessarily have to wait for tech support. I know with some companies it might take hours or even days to get a phone call back. We really want to try to answer that on that first phone call.